Hi, and welcome to Hypothetically Intentional, where we ask the question, what if we set intentions with everything we do? I'm your host, Michelle Albers, and today we have Jess Kozlowski ready and willing to go. We're both tarot readers, so for our intention today, we thought it would be fun to pull some cards. I happen to have three jumpers, so we can look at those. What do you have? Do you want to go first?
Sure. I haven't pulled anything yet, so let me just see. Oh, well, that's cool. We have the tower card.
Oh, that's amazing. Also,
And
welcome, Jess.
oh yeah, right. There's also the death card.
Oh,
But we also have the Ten of Earth. So like there's that.
that's amazing. So
Yeah.
my jumper that was face up. Oh, that's amazing. What deck is that?
This is The Beauty of Tarot, and it's created by a woman named Brenda Rose. She is the person I took I learned tarot from her. I took her class. So, but she designed this deck. So she taught the class with this deck. So yeah, this is the deck that I primarily use.
Awesome. I'm using Light Seers Tarot. Okay, so you had two major arcana. So we have six
Yeah.
cards, right? Because you pulled three and I had three jumpers, really. Like normally I cut the deck and pull cards, but today they were like, no, it's going to be these. My face
Hmm.
up card was the Fool. Talk
Cool.
about like major arcana, soul purpose work in this podcast today. I'm not sure exactly where we're going to go, but wherever it
Right.
is, it's going to be powerful.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what the other two are. Oh, you cannot make this up. Hanged Man
Wow.
and the Ace of Swords. So out of
Cool.
six cards, we have four major arcana and two minor
Right.
arcana.
Yeah.
I would love to explore like what this feels like to you because it feels pretty dang magical and albeit messy to me.
Yeah. It's definitely really intense. So, oh my goodness. What I'm really getting, what I'm getting from this, I know it's the intention for the podcast, but if I'm just gonna read the cards, it seems like everything is kind of falling apart. And like you said, everything is really messy, and there's a lot of like releasing and transformation that is happening, especially because we have between the two of us like three transformation cards. Actually, technically it's four. The four major
Mhm.
arcana card, like they're all about transformation because like the tower is and the death is like releasing that which isn't serving you anymore, but it's also um deciding to do things differently because the way that things were working before maybe isn't working anymore. And so now it's time to change things up and to live with more intention. But the Ten of Earth is showing me that even though things are pretty chaotic, everything is going to be okay. Everything's going to turn out okay in the end. And it's funny because today, like right now as we're recording this, it's October 17th and it is the full moon in Aries and it's a super moon.
I
So,
know. We
yeah.
didn't even like, I didn't intentionally plan that out. Like that just happened to be the date that worked for us to get
Yeah.
together and connect. It
Mm.
just, everything feels so divinely guided and universal support.
Yeah.
I love what you
Nice.
said about the tarot and the death cards. I feel like because I have in my hand the Fool, the Hanged Man, and the Ace of Swords. And so for
Hmm.
me to play along with the message you're getting, which feels accurate and truthful and aligned, I'm getting the Hanged Man encouraging us to have a new perspective, to look at things from a different
Hmm.
way, to understand that there might be surprises. And
Hmm.
also, they're leading you somewhere. They're taking you to a soul aligned place. And the Fool taking a leap of faith. And
Yep.
I mean, in this particular reading, it feels like trusting the process and
Yep.
understanding that it's going to require some courage. And then I love that the 10 of Pentacles is like everything's gonna be okay. There's abundance. You're not gonna struggle for long. It kind of
Yeah.
it feels. And then the Ace of
Right.
Swords very much feels like a mindset shift. Like this is teaching
Yeah.
you lessons that will change not only your life, but like your mindset so that moving forward, you show up in a new way that to me in the now, I don't know why this is coming in, but it just feels like it's a way more compassionate way to
Hmm.
navigate life. And I feel like if you can find compassion in the tower, the death, and the hanged man cards, the fool too, but those three in
Yeah.
particular, then life just gets better.
Yeah. No, this is definitely like really significant. And I know that even as a collective, we're all going through some really, really transformative major things, and it doesn't look the same for everybody, but I think it's all generally like a similar theme.
Hmm.
Um, Especially because like when I give readings at expos and like I have like back to back to back readings, most of the time it's around the same general theme. So it could be like relationships, like especially right now with the what with the recently we had a eclipse in Libra, and that was all about relationships, and like we're still dealing with that. And the big thing about that was about really learning how to set boundaries, and a lot of people really struggle with that, but like you're kind of being forced to set boundaries right now, or to basically kind of suffer as a result
Yeah.
of like not showing up for yourself like that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. What a beautiful way to start a podcast. Thank you for
Right?
I say playing along. I don't mean that to discredit our expertise. You know what I
Oh
mean?
no. Yeah,
But
right?
it
Yeah.
is playful and fun. And if you get cards like this and it isn't playful and fun, then it's a problem. Like you can't read for a living. You can't read as part of your soul's purpose and not have the ability to have fun in some of the heavier cards. These actually don't feel heavy to me today. They feel messy, but
Right?
they don't
Yeah.
feel like this dense, heavy, like not movable energy. It feels more like it's already in motion. It's been in motion for a
Yep.
while, and we're just, continuing to take the steps. And here's a little extra guidance for you to assist you in that. And for some reason, compassion, they're not necessarily in the cards, but it definitely is a word I keep hearing right now.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Well, let's see where life takes us. Because we're like, I mean, I'm over here like I am just doing stuff. I am just trying to feel my way forward and trusting that I am doing the right thing and that I am going in the right direction. And I'm also learning how to really listen to myself and to trust myself. So, like, if I were to look at this from my own perspective, it would be that I need to stop looking externally for answers, which is like the old way of doing things might have worked before, which would be looking for people who have the answers. And then the death for me could be like releasing the death of the old self or the old way of being, which is like, okay, now I'm turning inward and asking myself, what do I want to do and how do I move forward? And not actually really like grasping onto what everybody else wants me to do, which it's very interesting because now that I say that, I just remembered I'm really putting myself out there more. And I started putting myself in my community group on Facebook. And there has been some judgment
Mm.
because, I've been advertising my tarot workshop and I've had people commenting like tarot is demonic, stay away from it. And nobody in our little town wants this. You're wasting your time. And I'm over here like, oh, okay. This is literally exactly what I was afraid of, but I also know it's necessary for me to go through to like learn how to deal with it and to like I guess like develop that thicker skin and do what I want anyway, even though other people are like saying, no, don't do this. It's blah 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 blah. So yeah, it's gonna be
I
okay.
applaud you for that. I
Oh,
definitely
thank you.
I struggled with the same thing, and I kept myself hidden for a really long time, which doesn't really
Hmm.
do well when it is actually your business, like
Right.
so it was like, and for me, most of my stuff was coming from immediate circle. Um,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
so,
I get
and
it.
so I was like, oh dear, how am I going to hide this? And then I just finally kind of came to a place where I was like, you know what? I'm really good with who I am. And I'm really
Mhm.
good and clear with how I use these tools. And they don't feel that way to me. So
Right.
I don't need to entertain your fears. Your fears are yours. You get to keep them and navigate them on your own. I'm not for you then, and that's okay for this particular part of your life, right? Like so
Yeah.
it was this weird way to release and understand that just because they don't agree with this particular thing that I'm doing, A doesn't mean I'm not lovable. B doesn't mean I'm doing something that no one else is going to want, you know?
Right.
And C, I don't need their validation or approval. to work, to do my work, my inner work, my outer work, my soul's purpose that starts within and then shares into the world. And that was a journey for me though. So
Hmm.
if I can support you in any way on that, like I've lived it in a different way, but similar.
Yeah.
And so keep going. Good job. It's so
Oh my
hard.
goodness. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, like I have been responding, but obviously in a professional and friendly way. So like for the guy who was like, "Oh, nobody wants this," I was like, actually, everybody who signed up for this is from our little town. So although tarot might not be for some people, I'm excited to provide that learning and growth experience for people who are interested.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then like the other person who was like tarot is demonic, I was like, actually, I found myself closer to God than I was before tarot because I spent a few years atheist, and before that, for most of my life, I was agnostic.
Mm.
And then there was another comment from the same person, and it was like a prayer about like banishing demons or something, and they mentioned Archangel Michael, and I was like, oh, that's funny that you say that because I actually call on Archangel Michael whenever I do this. So like, thank you for the lovely prayer.
Yeah. Yeah, those are big words. And I get it. I started there. I started in fear and resistance. And then it was just like, I don't know, my spirit guides just kept showing up,
Yeah,
showing me it's okay. You're good. This is good. This is for you, legit, and for others.
yeah.
Keep going. So when
Hmm.
we very first talked about recording today, we talked about inner child.
Yes.
Do you want to go there?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I was just thinking about that earlier about how there are more inner child wounds showing up in my life now. Things that like I thought that I had dealt with, but it actually goes like way deeper than I thought it originally went. So for me, the thing that's coming up is childhood bullying, which is
Mhm.
like for me, putting myself out there, especially like I even went to a local business the other day and was like, do you guys do events? Like, would you be interested in hosting an event for like a psychic night or something like that? Or like, do you know other businesses that do that? And like, can I leave my business card somewhere? That to me was absolutely terrifying because my childhood, I basically spent being bullied for being myself, for putting myself out there, for shining my light. And it got so bad to the point that in my senior year of high school, I just shut down. I isolated myself from everybody because I was so tired of dealing with it. And now it's like, okay, here I am where I need to put myself out there to let people know who I am and what I do. And there is so much fear in that. And I know it's because there's that little girl inside of me who is just like, no, it's not safe to do this. It's not safe because people are going to be mean. People are going to bully. People are going to judge. And now here I am also learning like it's okay to do this because yes, there's going to be pushback, but there are also people who are going to accept me. And, a lot of people are into Taylor Swift and I really wasn't into her for a really long time, but I've been getting into her recently, and I just like super admire how she is like totally herself on stage and she has so much fun. And there are a lot of people who love her, but I see everywhere on the internet people who just like absolutely hate her. And I'm like, I guess this is like what comes with putting yourself out there and allowing yourself to be seen is you get people who love you and you get people who don't.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a huge, it's funny because before I brought up the inner child, I was like, I feel like these are related. Well, because
Yeah.
most of the time, anytime we're uncomfortable, right? I mean, it's related to some sort of pattern or story or past something.
Yeah.
It's not usually just like, oh, this is here for no reason. I mean, there's a
Right.
reason you're showing up in that way. And so the fact that you putting yourself out there on Facebook in studios is 100% tapping into a childhood wound that now you're like your inner observer, your inner like your I call it like the wise crone, which not everybody loves that word, but I think we all have like that inner wise elder within us that is like
Hmm.
knows and like that you have the capacity to hold space for yourself in that way so that you can show up and experience it with a new outcome and a new perspective and a new inner like guidance and light that supports you in it. Not to say I don't mean it doesn't get messy or hard, but I just think that's so amazing to hey, I'm going to go do this hard thing. I'm going to show up in action and go to this place and ask if they're willing to host or if they know anybody else. And if they, whatever the results are of that, I get to be happy that I chose it.
I mean, yeah, so like with that the one it was a coffee shop and they were like, "We don't really do events." But they gave me ideas for other places locally that I could go to. I still need to go to those places and talk to them. But I was also able to leave my business card and I walked out and I got home and I was like, I didn't die. I didn't die. Like literally the worst thing that could happen is maybe you die. And it was interesting because my reaction to that situation is like I wanted to cry from like relief and pride in myself, which was also the same reaction I felt at the beginning of September. I had taken my first ever international trip. I'd gone on a plane for the first time ever. I went to Iceland, super, super uncomfortable literally the entire time because, like, I was also with people I barely knew. I knew one guy for like a couple months, but then when we landed back in the United States, I wanted to cry because I was like, oh my God, I did it. I did it. Like, oh. Oh man. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot because you don't realize how much you are affected as an adult based on your childhood traumas. And that's the thing is like I look back for a really, really long time. Most of my life I would look back at my childhood and be like, yeah, I had a relatively normal childhood. But then when you dig deeper into it, you're like, oh,
Mm.
hmm. Like maybe it was normal for me, and that's why I looked at it that way. But then as you talk to people, like if you go to a therapist and you talk about your childhood, and then it kind of really illuminates how there were some things that happened that were really not healthy and things that were said that were not healthy. But also coming from this spiritual perspective is like you pick your experiences before you come here. Like you pick your parents, you pick your friends, you pick your family, you pick like everything that you want to experience and the exact concoction of events and experiences for you to through to become the person that you came here to be. So like there's no judgment or anything about what happened in my past. I know that all of it was for a reason and like I agreed to all this stuff. Like I have soul contracts with all these people to go through these things, including like abusive relationships. And now it's like I'm like, oh, so all that was to grow into who I am now so that I can help people through those experiences. But yeah, it's so much it's so much more complicated than we realize. Everything.
Yeah. I love that you said that because I just talked about this the other day with someone. We were talking about like practitioners that we work with or finding the right people for you. And then how do you show up authentic so that the quote unquote right, I don't love that word, but like the people that are meant for you show up so that you can serve them as well. And what does that look like? And, I was just talking about how I think when you've lived the experience, there is something about that holds a different kind of space so that you can then assist, guide, help, heal,
Hmm.
you know, not heal someone else because I don't believe that's how it works. I believe we have to find our own self-healing. Like we are the ones who are our own healers, but we can have others who hold space and are a catalyst for that for us. And I think
Hmm.
it's hard to be a catalyst or to find a catalyst if they don't understand where you've been and what's happened.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, I feel another thing that I think is important to point out is like, with looking at the big picture of things, understanding that we are all wounded children of wounded children and that everybody, even though again, like you think someone could be doing their best, you think that they're not doing their best, but like they actually are with everything that they know and the experiences that they've had, like everything that they have in their little toolbox from life. So just because you look at somebody and go like they could be better, they probably don't even see it at all. They probably think that they're amazing. Like maybe somebody who is like verbally abusive or something to you, they don't even see it as abuse because when they were children, they were physically abused. So to them, verbal abuse is fine because they're not physically abusing you.
Right. It's all in perspective and experiences and all of that. So when your inner child gets loud, and I'm just like, I don't know, it
Hmm.
just like popped into my head. Like when your inner child gets loud as you're moving through this experience of, I'm done hiding, you know,
Hmm.
I am going out into the world and I am shining my light. Um, what does that look like for you? How does it feel? How do you navigate it? Because I think so many people have, our inner child comes forward and maybe we don't recognize it as our inner child, but we
Right.
definitely, there's a discomfort that's there. So how do you navigate that?
So, well, okay, it definitely requires having to ask questions, like asking questions to dig deeper. So, asking a question, maybe something like, where does this come from? Or why am I feeling this? And then answering that. And then, okay, where does that come from? And then you can go as far down as like, for me, it was, I am afraid to be seen. I'm afraid to put myself out there because in the past, when I have done that, it resulted in like emotional and mental turmoil. So a good way to at least begin to get to know sort of where your inner child is at is, if you're listening, don't do this while you're driving. But at some point, just like, close your eyes and imagine your inner child in front of you. Like take note of their age, about how old they are. For me, my inner child is usually about like the 5-year-old range. So, and then ask yourself, what do they look like? Are they like, what are they doing? Are they playing? Are they smiling? Are they excited? Or are they reserved and quiet and shy? And just take notice of that. So when I first did this exercise, I was looking at my 5-year-old self, imagining her in front of me, and she was really quiet and didn't seem very happy and was shy, which I was like, that's really interesting. So I started talking to her, like in my imagination, I started like, hey, um, are you okay? What's going on? But she wouldn't answer. And I'm like, why isn't she answering? So then I said, it's okay to talk to me. It's okay to tell me how you're feeling. Like, this is a safe space, and, I'm here to listen to you. And, like, that's when she kind of started to open up a little bit, and she started to just to say stuff, like to start some kind of verbal expression. But like if you do this exercise and you look at and you pay attention to what your inner child looks like in front of you and how they're behaving, that gives you an idea of like what their current state is right now. And your inner child like actually exists. Like he or she or they are present in you right now. So as you do this exercise, this work is being done in like the energetic realm. So it's totally real. It's not like you're just making stuff up. I mean, when you first start doing inner child work, it might feel like you're just making stuff up because you're like, well, this is my imagination. But the imagination is real. So,
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. I have similar experiences with doing meditation to go in and pull forward my inner child. Sometimes, depending on which age, there's several that come forward for me. um, Sometimes it's the loudest voice in the room, so to speak, in myself, and it's not productive or helpful. And so I kind of, find myself doing very similar to what you're talking about is like going and pulling her forward and asking her questions. And the other thing I really love to add a layer to it is to remind her, like, hey, this is like, I'm you. We've come a long ways. We've done a lot of healing. We've found great people. We're not in that same energetic space anymore. And I understand, what you went through and know that it gets better. We
mhm.
gain skills, we gain wisdom, we gain amazing people, and you're safe now. What do you need? What do you need to help you feel comfortable in this skin? Because this skin is not 14 anymore. She's 54. And she's different, but also still the same. Like you get to exist. I'm not wanting to get rid of you. I'm just inviting you to understand that we're not in that same energy anymore and we get to
Right.
evolve. And I just think that's such a beautiful practice, but it's very strange the first few times you do it, and it can be uncomfortable. And like you said, you can feel like I'm making all of this shit up. Like, what is happening? What am I doing right now? This feels so silly, And then it's like interesting that, connecting with your inner child feels silly and we want to hide it when really I feel like part of the goal is to remind your child she gets to play.
Yeah, that's also definitely really important is allowing yourself to actually be and do the things that maybe you've always wanted to do, like really deep down. So when I was a kid, I wanted, I saw the Tiger Schulman's ads for karate and on TV commercials, and I was like, oh, I want to do that. And I expressed that to my parents. I remember them, probably my dad, saying something like, "Oh, karate is for sissies," or "karate is stupid," or something like that. Right? So like I never got to do it, but then as an adult, like literally 2 years ago, I signed up for karate and yeah, I was and still am, well, was in a class full of children and they still are children, but they're more like preteens and teenagers now. So, but yeah, I'm doing the thing that I wanted to do when I was a kid. I'm giving myself the chance to experience that. And also there's a part of me that wants to learn like gymnastics and ballet and all those other things that I wanted to learn when I was a kid, but I'm also kind of like one thing at a time.
Yeah, I love that. I want to circle back to Iceland if that's okay.
Oh yes, I love that. Yes, let's talk about that.
I I love how you like connected the dots of it was like the emotions that were coming for you when you did the hard thing, when you did the thing that was actually a little terrifying for you, or maybe a lot terrifying for you, where you were like, I
Yes.
was equally like afraid and proud. And both of those things brought tears. And I think that's such a great point to note that, like, sometimes when we have emotions bubble up, it's for positive reasons and harder, more challenging reasons. And allowing yourself to notice that and feel that and lean into that is pretty cool. But tell me more about the whole experience if you're open to it.
Oh my goodness. It was honestly like the most amazing and transformative freaking experience I think I've ever had in my life. So basically, back in May, I met this guy named, oh, Josh.
Yeah, he's been on my podcast.
Yeah, Josh. I met Josh through a group coaching program, and I'd only known him for like 4 weeks. And he was like, "Hey, there is this retreat in Iceland that I'm going to, and since I've been on these retreats before, I can split the cost of the retreat with someone. And I think like I had somebody going with me, but they dropped out, and I think that you would be a really cool person to travel with. So like, do you want do you want to go?" And I'm like, I was like, I don't know, it really made me excited. Like my heart was like, "Oh, I get to go to Iceland. Like I've wanted to go to Iceland and this might be the only chance I really get to go to Iceland. And like I barely know this guy, but my heart is saying like this is good and this is exciting. So I was like, yeah, like I mean I thought about it for a couple weeks, but like it kept going to yes. So yeah, and when we went to Iceland, thankfully he lives an hour and a half from me. So it was, again, my first ever plane ride. So thankfully, I was able to take my first ever plane ride with somebody. So, like, now I kind of know how to navigate an airport and what you're supposed to do in an airport. But yeah, so we went, had a connecting flight in London, and then went to Iceland and did this speakers retreat for a few days. And it's so interesting, like the things that I learned there and the things that I realized, there's so much. Like one is I am 99.9% European, something like that. I am like straight white European girl, woman, whatever. So, but like growing up in the United States, I I went like my entire life thinking that I wasn't beautiful or that I was ugly or that I was unattractive because I didn't match the beauty standards of
Mm.
America. When I went and got on the plane, it was British Airways. Everybody who was on the plane who worked for the airline were people that looked like me, like they were pale. They weren't trying to be tan. They weren't trying to fit these ridiculous beauty standards that we have in America that literally don't even make any sense. Like nobody can fit into this box that whoever decided like you need to do this and be this to be beautiful. So I'm looking at all these people who look like me and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, they're so beautiful." And then we get into Iceland and I'm like, everybody here looks like me, like they're pale. And I'm looking at these model posters, and these people have like the same bone structure as me. And I'm like, these models look like me, like I could be a model. And we went to the Blue Lagoon, and in Iceland, you kind of just get changed. You get naked in front of people to get changed into a swimsuit. And I was like building myself up for this, like, okay, I'm gonna get naked in front of some strangers and also people that I met like 2 days ago. So, but the thing is, when I got to the point where I was completely unclothed and about to put my bikini on, I weirdly felt more natural and open and beautiful and confident without clothing than I have ever felt with clothing. And I was like, that is crazy. So basically, one of the things I learned, because I learned a lot of things when I was there, one of the things I learned is I'm actually beautiful and I've always been beautiful. There's nothing wrong with my body. My body is amazing. Like, I finally, for the first time ever, was able to look in the mirror and be like, I am a fucking work of art. Oh my God. And then I was angry because I'm
Mm.
like, I went my whole life comparing myself to everybody, thinking I needed to be tan. People would tell me, you're too pale, you're neon white, like things like that. Like, you need to get in the sun more. And people would like be contouring their faces and wearing makeup. And I'm like, I don't actually like wearing makeup. I don't wear makeup. And like it gets in my eyes and it irritates my skin. But like that was just like one of the things I learned when I was there is I finally got to see things from outside of the United States, and I'm seeing just how toxic the culture is here, especially the culture with beauty standards. Um, yeah, there was a lot. There was a lot of things that happened because there was also me finally releasing the need to rely on my tarot cards because we also got stranded in the Highlands, which was
Oh, wow.
it's literally in the middle of nowhere. Like there's nobody out there. And it's because we were gonna go to this place called Arnarstapi, which was an hour and a half northwest of Reykjavik, which is where we were staying. So the retreat ended. We were going to Arnarstapi, but sometime between the phone being passed to the front for the GPS, somebody added a stop and we accidentally went 3 hours straight east.
Oh,
So
wow.
and we had a flat tire and we had to wait for a tow truck. And that was like over $1,800. And so basically we were stranded in a car for like 3 hours and my tarot cards had gotten wet the
Oh,
first night in the hotel. Like I had my bag next to the shower. I didn't know that the shower water was gonna like spit directly into my bag. And I'm like, well, damn. Like I even when that happened, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is a sign from spirit being like, stop relying on your cards. Like you can do this without cards. So
yeah.
I spent 3 hours in the car with four other people with all of our luggage piled on top of ourselves because it was a small like station wagon and we had a lot of luggage. And I just did readings for everybody without cards for 3 hours and I was right about everything. And I'm like, dang, like I really can do this. And yeah, no, there was a lot. It was a whole thing. So if you have never been out of the country, if you've never been on a plane, like just go somewhere. Just do
Yeah, I
something.
think new spaces and international travel specifically just amplifies the heck out of it. But going anywhere that's outside of your comfort zone, somewhere you've never been before, inevitably things like that happen that invite you, I'm going to say it that way, to make a new choice, to look at things through a new lens and to decide and also reveal that you have way more skills, maybe is the way to put it, than you ever thought you did before. That like, I don't know, for me, it's like self-trust. It's like, oh, it doesn't really matter, super not testing the universe, but like whatever happens in life, I think I'm going to be all right. I got this, whether it's life or death. Like, even if it's death time, like, I got this. I'll figure it out. I have great people in my world. I put myself into places where there's always somebody I can call or lean into if I need it. But also, like, I have my whole spiritual counsel available to me with or without my cards. And like learning that I get to trust that connection that I have. Like, I can my phone a friend might be my spirit guides, like I have that accessible to me at all times. And I didn't used to trust that or believe that or even think it was, I wasn't positive how I felt about it. When I started opening my gifts, it was like, oh, which, I mean, I think we all have the potential and the possibility of connecting with universe, source, creator, God, whatever your words are, if we choose it. And when I decided to choose it and stop fighting it, for me, that changed everything. And international travel just creates so many opportunities to connect with that or with your humans in your circle as well. Because ultimately, at some point on international travel, there's gonna be chaos of some kind. Like, I've never taken an international trip where everything has gone exactly as it was laid out and planned, to the point where I don't like things to be super rigidly planned because it makes it harder to go with the flow. I like to have
Hmm.
a plan and understand that this is loosely based because I know, like, we're going to Thailand next month, actually this month, when by the time this releases, and it's like stuff is going to happen. I know that stuff is going to happen, and we'll figure it out. We always figure it out.
Hmm.
It's just the way it goes. And is it always pleasant? No. Sometimes it's ridiculously uncomfortable. Um,
Oh
and it's
yeah.
always a great story. Like, that's Dan, my partner, and I. He and I are always like, some of our most favorite moments now were the most uncomfortable when they were happening, but they're
Oh
super fun to
yeah.
reminisce about and to giggle about now.
Oh yeah, like even my sister and I, we went to the beach one year and it's still my most favorite beach trip ever. And it was just like, I guess when you're at the beach, there will be just like tropical storms that just pop up out of nowhere. Like you don't know about them. They're really random. And so we had gotten stuck in two little mini tropical storms and the second one wasn't stopping and we were like trying to walk back to the car and it was super windy and it was downpouring raining and we were soaked and we had already changed into our street clothes and like stuff was flying everywhere and it was an adventure and I it's still like my most favorite beach trip because it was just something it was scary but also cool to be walking through what was like downpouring, dangerous, windy tropical storm rain.
I love that. I appreciate all the things you're sharing so much today because I think on the journey, sometimes people like have these experiences and they're like, gosh, I'm the only one that feels this way, or I'm the only one who has this challenge, or I'm the only one who, and not in like a self-righteous kind of way. I don't mean it like that, but just like in a, I feel really uncomfortable and I don't know who to talk to because I don't think this is normal and I don't want to be even more vulnerable in this moment, right? Like, that's really hard when, like, for me, when I first started the journey, that was hard. I was a fly in the room more often than not in most of the classes and trainings that I was going to, just because I was really feeling vulnerable, like in a room without
Hmm.
skin and all the elements coming at me and every emotion under the sun coming up and surfacing all at the same time, going, I don't know what to do right now. And I can't take another vulnerable thing. Right. And so it's like, if that's happening in your world and you're on this journey of self-discovery and healing and transformation and looking at your inner child, like, it, whatever it is that's uncovering and you're experiencing is quote unquote normal. I don't even love that word, but like it happens. It happens to all of us. And it's a beautiful thing when you're willing to come on a podcast. We've never met, we've never even spoken, and just like get on the podcast and lay it out. I have a couple more questions and then we can wrap it up. Are you cool with that?
Cool. Oh yeah.
Um, I'm wondering about, because when we talked, I think I asked you about your, like you were, or maybe you were telling me about your gifts and how you didn't have them, you wanted them, and then all of a sudden they just sort of came in for you. And I'm super curious about that.
Okay, so I've been told by other psychics and readers that I was born with these abilities. I don't remember ever having them. I also don't remember a lot of my childhood, but like I guess I shut them off or something at some point, which makes sense because over the last, ever since like maybe March is when I really started doing the inner child work and that emotional healing. And I spent a really long time like not trusting my intuition because like, okay, I'm like kind of jumping around here, but like I I had mentioned earlier that I had been in like abusive relationships. And so basically the last one had ended in December of 2016. And then February 2021, like throughout that whole time, I basically was like, God isn't real. I was like basically an atheist because I was like, God would not have allowed me to go through those horrible experiences if God were real. So the day before Valentine's Day, February 2021, there was an ad on my Facebook newsfeed. It was like, I can draw your soulmate. And I'm like, because I'd been single for that entire time. And I'm like, I basically said, if I don't get married by the time I'm 40, I'm going to adopt a cat every year on my birthday. So I did the reading and the reading hasn't come true. Like now looking back, I'm like, okay, that reading wasn't really legit because they were like, if you share this with anybody, it's not going to come true. So keep it to
Oh,
yourself. Yeah, nah, but the point is the reading actually resonated. Like I could read this description of my relationship with this person and I was like, this looks really good and like something that I want. And then I was really curious. I was like, hmm. So I started Googling psychics and then mediums and then chakras and then Reiki and then crystals and essential oils and like everything. I went down this whole rabbit hole and I was like, I want to be a psychic medium. How do I do this? Can I do this? Like, don't you need to be born with stuff like this? So it took a long time, and also with some coaching and other experiences. But like, with signing up for a tarot class was really like the first step for me. So then I started doing like years later the inner child work. And what I learned is my dominant clair is clairsentience, which is the feeling one, which makes a lot of sense because like I had really shut my heart down like way back into my childhood because existing and being in my heart was just way too painful that I just closed it off. So, as I have been opening my heart back up, I have learned that I can feel people's innermost, deepest emotions. I can feel the emotions of the people around them if I tune into them. Like I'm not on, I'm not on all the time. And people seem to think that I am. So they'll be like, what'd you pick up from that person? And I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't trying to feel into them. So, but like if someone is paying me for a reading and I were to go like into their soul, like I can feel their emotions. I can feel that deepest internal state and where that comes from. Like I can feel when people have such a low sense of their self-worth and that they really equate their self-worth to the service they provide for others. So like they'll constantly go out of their way for other people and do things for other people, sacrificing themselves in the process because that's the only way that they feel worthy. Like that's what I can do. And I also like I'm still growing into all this and I'm really excited to see where it goes. But yeah, I didn't know I could do this for my whole life and I didn't even accept that I could do it without cards until September, which was like a month and a half ago. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I can do it. Like I can see now I can do it. And I was using the cards as a crutch for a really long time. I've been able to do this. I did not trust myself to do it.
that goes right in line with you talking about having the realization or the aha that you wanted to stop going external and go internal. On some level,
Yep.
the tarot cards are a way to go internal through the external because the
Hmm.
cards themselves are external, but I find them really useful. I think I think there's so many beautiful things about cards that can help not only us as readers, but the our sitters, right? Like the people who are with us.
Oh yeah.
Because I think the human experience, the more layers of our senses that we can use, the more it hits, the more things there are that we can have an awareness around. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So that's really cool. I love that. I love that. Yeah, it's like one choice, and then it opens doors. And it just if you just keep taking a step, it keeps opening more and more doors. And I don't know, it's such a beautiful thing. I feel like we should have a part two and talk about like the journeys, like
Oh, we could totally do that.
more detailed. I think that'd be a fun thing to do because I'm also curious about the mediumship thing. I already cannot remember the other question I was going to ask you. It
Well,
totally escaped me. Is there
I don't
anything
know what the
else you
question would
feel
be.
like you what?
I don't even know what the question would. I mean, I was like, maybe I could try to tune into. Nope, I don't know what the question is.
Yeah.
But like, but even with the mediumship thing, like I was told by my parents that when I was a baby or a toddler or something, I looked at a picture of my grandfather, who I guess liked to be called Pop Pop, but he died before I was born, and so I didn't know him. But when I looked at this picture, I said Pop Pop. And my parents were like, "What?"
That's so cool.
So like, yeah, like I said, I guess I was able to do this stuff even when I was really, really little and I was really connected, like I was always connected, but for some reason I shut it off or I shut it down. I don't know if like maybe it was scary or maybe people were telling me like nobody was there. I have no idea. I really don't remember, but yeah, so it really gave me this perspective throughout literally most of my life where I was like agnostic. Like I was not raised religious, and I'm like, I think that there's something out there. I just don't know what it is, but I think that there's something. And I'm over here like, oh my gosh, like everybody is right. Like there's God and there's Jesus and there's Hindu gods and there's like all of the Greek gods, like everything is real. All of it is real. And like that's really, really cool. I've also like really been drawn to the Greek gods and goddesses, like Hercules. Disney's Hercules was like my favorite movie when I was a kid. Yeah. So I'm like, I really would like to go to Greece one day and check that out.
And so it is.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's amazing. So
Yeah.
good. I feel like so much of what you shared is so important for people to hear, to know that they're not alone on their journey, to know that
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I know what the other question was. I knew
Oh,
it would come in. That's why the pause. I was like waiting for the download.
ha. I was like, what?
When you do your tarot readings, are they often specific to inner child work? Like, is that kind of your specialty, so to speak, or are they more I don't know, comprehensive is the right word, but I don't know. It
Comprehensive
just,
is a good word.
yeah,
So the for me, like the psychic stuff, that is definitely more of a deep internal thing. Like if I don't use cards, if I use cards, um, that is definitely more of like a holistic, comprehensive sort of a thing. Like the spread that I normally do for people is like recent past, present, near future, what to do, external influences, hopes and fears, and like the outcome if you were to continue on this path. I make it very clear to people that you have free will and the future isn't really, it's not set in stone. So if you don't like this outcome, you can choose to do something else.
yeah,
But yeah, so like, but I do like my intuition does kick in also with the cards because like I know the general meanings of the cards, but like once in a while I'll get something from a card that I haven't gotten before. So as an example, I had the King of Fire in the what to do one time, and what I felt was I was like, I feel like this person just needs to explode. Like they are keeping themselves in a cage and allowing themselves to be mistreated. And it feels like with this particular card, what they need to do is allow themselves to actually express and say what they feel and say what they mean and like just let it out. And I've never gotten that with that card before, but that's what I was feeling is it was like there was this pent up rage and anger and like something needed to come out.
That's amazing. Yeah, that happens to me a lot too, where
Yeah.
I'm like, I know this doesn't usually mean this, but this is what I'm feeling right now. And I just think,
Hmm.
why would I not share that? I think I get the vibe from you that you don't have this like feeling that you have to be right when you read. It's more about like, we're here, we're being, and we're listening, and the card is leading us somewhere, but it's not necessarily to the exact traditional meaning of the card. That
Right.
there's more layers than that, that it's
Hmm.
it can be more layered than that. So I think that's pretty cool.
Hmm. Yeah. So, like, if anybody who is listening wants to connect more with their intuition, tarot is a really good way to start doing that. And but even me, like when I first started reading tarot, again, I was not connected with my intuition at all. Like I really wanted to be. And I honestly didn't even understand what intuition meant. I had Googled
Mm.
the definition multiple times and it just was not clicking. I could not understand what intuition was. It didn't make any sense to me. And people would be like, when you have a feeling about this or this or this, and I'm like, yeah, but I base that off of like things that I can see.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway, so if you decide you do want to start reading tarot, don't be so hard on yourself because when I first started, I would get really frustrated and kind of down because I'm pulling cards for myself and I'm like, I don't understand what this means. I don't know how this applies to me. I would Google the meanings. I would look up all the meanings I could find and try and figure out what it meant for me. But like, that's just where I was.
Yeah. I did that too. I was a very logical reader when I started. There was not a lot of intuition happening, and that works too. That's not a
Hmm.
bad thing. And I feel like most people drawn to tarot really want to deepen their intuition. And it's,
Yeah.
you know, you can, like what you just said, helps people do that. So, how do people
Hmm.
find you if they want to work with you or connect with you or get a reading from you? I want to make sure our listeners can find you.
Yes, please. Thank you. So I have a few ways. My website is jesscos.com. Like my name is Jessica Kozlowski, but nobody knows how to spell Kozlowski. So it's Jess Cos, JESSKOZ.com. So super easy on there. Like you get all my services. You can book stuff. So like I offer psychic readings, medium readings, tarot readings, a combination of those things. I do distance Reiki healing. I actually also learned recently I can do readings based off of like whatever physical ailments you're experiencing and give you the underlying energetic reason of that physical ailment. Like I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a doctor, I'm not any of those things, but I can at least like energetically treat whatever it is that you're experiencing. Um, I also now I teach tarot. And oh my God, what else do I do? Oh yeah, I'm also a coach. Haha. I am a transformational healing coach. So like I really work with people who, how do I describe this? Because this is where I was at. This is something that I experienced, which was knowing that there is a way forward, knowing that there is a better way to live, and not knowing how to get there, not knowing what that looks like. And it really comes from your relationship with yourself, which is reflected into your relationships outside of you. So, like, that's me as I help you with that inner healing so that you can have healthy relationships, you can have more success, you can have a happier and healthier life where you're more confident and more empowered and you actually follow your heart instead of going with what everybody else wants you to do. Like even with me being seen, my entire life I spent it trying to be someone or something that other people would accept and love. And that's not what it's about. Like, I know that now, but there are people out there who are still in that place where they're like, I need to be and do certain things in order to receive love and to feel worthy. And so I help people figure out what the root is of that and how to move forward. So yeah, justcause.com. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, like all that is on my website. That's like just the easiest way to get there. Um, but yeah,
Perfect.
so
Awesome. Thank you so much for our time together today. What a beautiful circle we created, it feels like. Starting
yes.
with the four major arcana and the two, we also got a one and a 10. Like we went from the fool, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like we start, I don't know, just so beautiful. So I really appreciate getting to know you better. I appreciate your time today. And I think that's a wrap for today. Bye.
Yes.
Be you
Thank
every
you.
day. Thanks.